Today we are going to talk about a new Necromancer build for Gauntlet and Raids. As you all know, the Summoner builds used to dominate in terms of Raid and Gauntlet damage numbers. However, with the new mechanics, keeping summons alive has become more challenging, but today we are fixing that issue. Thanks to the new essences, we can now keep our summons alive with damage immunity. This build is primarily for Gauntlet runs and some of the harder raids, but I'll be releasing an updated dungeon build soon. Before we dive into the build, don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already so you don't miss out on future content. Let's start with the skills we are using. Our first skill is Command Skeletons without any essences. They're here to deal some damage, but if you're having trouble dodging mechanics in raids, you can swap this out for raid form to move around more easily. Next, we have our Poison Golem. I tested the new Golem as well, but this one performed better. Poison Golem increases the damage enemies take by 10% when you activate the leap, which is pretty good. On top of that, we have an offhand item that causes enemies to take 15% increased damage. Lastly, we are using the newly released Helmet Essence that extends the duration of nearby skeletal mages by 2 seconds every 2 seconds. As you can guess, we are also using skeletal mages with the new offhand. Thanks to that, we summon a mobile mage that channels beams at up to 3 nearby enemies. The damage gradually increases by up to 100% if a beam continues to damage the same target. We also have the new shoulders that increase the size of the mage the longer it's active, boosting its damage by 45% after 5 seconds. This pairs well with the Command Golem's Helmet Essence. Finally, we have Bone Armor, and once again we are using one of the new essences. This new chest essence grants nearby summons immunity to damage and control loss for 4 seconds. We are also increasing the duration of Bone Armor with a Pants essence. For our primary attack, we are using Bone Spear with a main hand essence that destroys enemy armor for 3 seconds, increasing the critical hit damage they take by 20%. That's all you need to know about the skills. I'll show you every legendary item you need for this build in a minute. Now when it comes to set items, I'm using 6 pieces of Shepherd's Call to Wolves and 2 pieces of Vitus. The reason for this is to increase the duration of Bone Armor. The Shepherd set increases summon damage by 15% and gives us a 3% critical hit chance for each of our summons, up to a maximum of 18%. It also puts our summons into a frenzied state for 12 seconds each time one of them critically hits, which increases their attack speed by 60%. This effect cannot occur more than once every 40 seconds. You can experiment with different set combinations if you want, but this one seems to work pretty well for me. Now let's check out all of the legendary items. For the helmet, we are using Decrepit Visage. Your golem roars once every 2 seconds, extending the duration of your nearby skeletal mages by 2 seconds. For the chest, we have Whisperwell. Bone Armor now empowers your nearby summons, granting them immunity to damage and control loss. For the shoulders, we are using Depletion and Renewal. Skeletal Mage grows in size and strength the longer it's active, increasing its damage by 45% after 5 seconds. For the pants, we have Graven Bulwark, which increases the duration of Bone Armor by 39%. For the first main hand, we have Pleasant Venom. Summon a Poison Golem for 24 seconds. When summoned, it will deal damage to all nearby enemies and increase the damage they take by 10% for 4 seconds. Its basic attack will inflict corrosion on the enemies it hits, dealing damage over 2 seconds. While it is active, you can order the golem to leap to a nearby location, where it will deal damage to all nearby enemies and increase the damage they take by 10% for 4 seconds. For the second main hand, we are using Wicked Husker. Bone Spear also destroys enemy armor for 3.2 seconds, increasing the critical hit damage they take by 20%. For the first offhand, we have Corrosive Slab. Command Golem also makes nearby enemies vulnerable, causing them to take 15% increased damage. For the second offhand, we are using Black Vault. Skeletal Mage now summons a mobile mage for 13 seconds. It will channel beams at up to 3 nearby enemies, dealing damage that gradually increases by up to 100% if a beam continues to damage the same target. Other than that, I guess we can talk about cursed properties and Paragon. For the cursed properties, you can use 6 pieces of Vexed, and when it comes to Paragon, you can use Slinger with Unseen Dynamism, Gifted, Bloodthirst, Superiority, and Fury. I don't like to talk about legendary gems for every single build because they are hard to obtain and very difficult to swap out for specific builds. However, gems like Pain Class, Berserker's Eye, Mother's Lament, Follower's Burden, and Bloody Reach can be helpful in increasing your total damage output with this build. I'm not even mentioning Blood-Soaked Jade, Roiling Consequence, and Bottled Hope because they are must-haves for everyone at this point. Now, I will leave you guys with some solo Gauntlet gameplay so you can see how this build works. Thanks for tuning in and take care.